I took the fall for my brother and spent 2 years in jail, but when I got out of jail my brother and sister-in-law were worried that I would compete for the property. They joined my parents in trying to kick me out of the house, but they didn't know that inside the prison I accidentally saved the daughter of the richest man in town. To show his gratitude, he gave me $100 million after my release. The first thing I did was try to go home and surprise them. You're just putting on a brave face now that you see we're not welcoming you, pretending you don't care. Greta continued her snide remarks. Melanie also looked at me with disdain. Janina, you need to know your place. This isn't somewhere you belong. Just leave and stop embarrassing yourself. Exactly. Today is my son's 1-month celebration. Your presence here will only bring bad luck to him. I don't want my son to be poor his whole life. Get out. Greta's hostility was relentless. I met her gaze and said coldly, if you don't want to see me, you can leave yourself. This was my territory, and I had no intention of indulging her. Well, aren't you something, Janina? No skills but plenty of attitude. This high-end hotel is no place for a broke ex-con like you. Get out, get out, get out. Greta was furious, grabbing my collar and trying to drag me out. Don't touch me. I forcefully shrugged off her hand, causing her to stumble and nearly fall. Smack. Without a word, James stepped forward and slapped me hard across the face. Janina, you're no longer the lobby manager earning tens of thousands a month. Now, you're just a worthless nobody. Did you really think we'd put up with you? He then shouted down the hallway. Security. Where's security? Hearing this, a group of security guards quickly rushed over. James pointed at me and barked at the security guards. How can you let just anyone in here? Get this beggar woman out of here immediately. The head of security approached James and asked politely, Sir, what is the problem? James pointed at me again. This woman is a penniless beggar trying to scrounge a meal here. Get her out. The security chief looked at me and said coldly, Ma'am, please leave. I usually kept a low profile, rarely revealing my status as the hotel owner, even though I lived and dined here. Only the upper management knew who I was. Seeing the head of security try to throw me out so quickly, I fixed him with a stern gaze and said, Is this how you handle situations? Don't you know the hotel's policy? We should not judge anyone by their appearance or offend any guest. A flicker of uncertainty crossed the security chief's eyes. He looked at me uneasily, no longer daring to say anything. Greta, seeing this, became anxious. Don't let her fool you. She's just a broke ex-con. Throw her out. Sorry ma'am, we don't eject any guests without cause. The security chief firmly refused Greta's demand this time. What are you security guys doing then? Getting scared off by a few words from her? James shouted at the guards, then turned to me again. Janina, don't think you can bluff your way out of this. I know the hotel manager here. One call from me, and you're out. With that, he pulled out his phone and made a call. Mr. Feldman, it's James. I'm busy. The call ended abruptly with a cold response, leaving James standing awkwardly with his phone. I sneered and said calmly, You want to speak to Mr. Feldman? Let me help you. I took out my phone and called, Mr. Feldman, come to private room 777 within 3 minutes. Janina, are you out of your mind? You're a broke ex-con. Don't pretend to be someone important here. We know exactly what kind of person you are. Is there any need to put on this act? James sneered at me. The other relatives looked at me like I was a clown, their faces filled with mockery and disgust. Melanie wiped the sweat from her forehead and said in embarrassment, This is so humiliating. How did I raise a daughter like this? Seamus also looked exasperated. Janina, just leave. Stop pretending. You're making a fool of yourself and your family. Exactly. Some people are so poor they've lost their minds and developed delusions. James couldn't even get Mr. Feldman here and you think you can? It's ridiculous. Greta scoffed, her tone dripping with contempt. She looked at me as if even acknowledging my existence was beneath her. But just as she finished speaking, a middle-aged man in a suit arrived at our side.